did you think that he was right in hindsight? Like, did you
No,
then relax your ass?
Because I was nervous, and he could see it in my ass.
Okay, welcome to episode 7.
7?
We're not walking in anymore.
No.
I couldn't be asked last time, and now you're like, can't be bothered.
We can't be asked walking in, and you've got a cup of tea.
Hold on, you've got a cup of tea.
Mine's
You're
out.
trying to hide yours off camera. Let's see it.
Yeah. I did have some biscuits as well, but they're on the floor.
Mine's branded.
What's happened to us?
Oh, we got old.
What episode is this?
Episode 7, Series 5.
We're flying, people. We're flying.
Will and Ralf. Before we get going, a quick reminder that on last week's podcast, we were very, very cultured and we discussed theatre a great deal, but we also talked about how we had been playing Le Bon, which is the app in which you can basically sort of half betting, half sweepstake. You and your mates put in a little stake and predict football scores together.
Yep.
Well, after the recording, we went down to the pub for a few drinks to actually watch the games play out, and it was a lot of fun, wasn't it? We watched the game, and we were checking out who was doing it and who was winning and whatever. Yeah. That was a lot of fun, and we recorded it all, so you can listen and watch what went on that night.
Yeah, we shouldn't talk too much about it, because you'll be able to watch it and see it.
There was quite a lot went on.
There was lots of ups and downs.
Yeah, so you can see that on the Swift Half, which dropped on Friday. Yeah. So a quick reminder that Le Bon is on the App Store or wherever you get your apps from. We actually did really... We don't really like talking stuff up unless we actually think it's good, also, and we did enjoy it.
We don't
it was
do
really
much
good.
about betting because we don't want to encourage people to be gambling, but at the same time, we take this app takes the bookie out of the equation.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's a bit of fun between you and your mates, and you can set your limits.
Yeah, I quite liked it. It felt quite ethical to me and quite safer and quite like. And do you know what I liked about it is you can't chase losses. Yeah. So you put in a stake, you go up against your mates. It's a bit of fun. It's a bit of banter. Yeah. And if you lose your money, your original stake, there's no mechanism for going, right, well, I'm going to go again. I'm going again. So it can't spiral over. Anyway.
Next week you can go again next week when the game starts.
Exactly.
Again, but then you can keep a little roster of who won last week.
Exactly.
And reinvest in. And
it's more about the social, isn't it? So Le Bon, you can see everything that happened. Get it from the App Store or wherever you get your apps. And let's crack on.
Get involved.
I've got some... listener feedback.
Oh, we got some feedback.
We got some feedback.
We did ask you to send in to twopintspodcast.com any messages, stories, questions, anything you want to talk about.
Questions you have for us, if there's any subjects you want to know what our take on it is.
Agony ants. We said we'll sort you out. You know what I mean? Any problems with your relationships or anything you want our advice on, who else better to come to? Those two. Or
even if you want stuff about, like, I don't know, what's been going on. I'll tell you what people were talking about. A lot of people were talking about Elon Musk's quote-unquote Nazi salute. Was it really a Nazi salute or wasn't it? Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. That's the kind of thing that I don't think we have talked about it on the podcast, but that's the kind of thing that we could talk about. I've got thoughts. So if you've got any thoughts about that kind of thing that you'd like to see what we make of it, we'd be more than happy to oblige.
Anything you see in the press or on the papers, not papers, who reads that anymore, but anything that you go, what do you think about this? Send it in.
Yeah. So... here we are. on a previous pod we talked about like embarrassing moments, and then me and you went into talking about our experiences with porn when we were teenagers. Me with the porn mag that my mum found, and your video that your dad
I'll have to watch this to make sure it's right.
Yeah, that your dad nearly sort of wound down to the ribbon didn't nearly work on the VHS.
It took him 6 months to watch that video.
Yeah,
every day for 6 months.
So I got a message from Alex.
Right. No surname.
No.
Male or female? Alex. Do we know?
Male.
Right.
And Alex said, "Hi, Will and Ralf. I just listened to Series 5, Episode 4 when Ralf was embarrassed by his family. I always remembered an instance when my mum embarrassed me. One afternoon when I was about 15, I decided to watch The Specialist with Sylvester Stallone and Sharon Stone, which I'd recorded the night before. At a point in the movie, the characters start kissing passionately in the shower, the music swells, and a 90s sex scene starts.
Right.
I'm watching a film at 2 p.m, and my mum's reading the paper in the room. I didn't realise she'd also started to watch the film, and so I just desperately wanted this scene to finish. As the scene ends, the two characters fall into ecstasy, and at that point, my mum just goes, "It's not like that in real life." I wanted the ground to swallow me up, although, to be fair, I now know she's right. Look forward to seeing you guys in November.
Right.
So there you go.
To the tour. Right.
That reminds me as well.
I remember them days. Oh, go on, Brad.
Well, that reminds me of a... this is only a few years back. This is probably about 3 years ago. Oh God, yeah. So I was visiting my mum in Devon, and we were watching. And my mum is great to go and visit because she loves to put on a film in the evening, and she loves action films. Loves it. Loves a Schwarzenegger film. Loves a Bond film. Anything where there's people being beaten up and shot. My mum's all about it. Oh, loves it. So you're always trying to find like a fun action film for her. So we're flicking through like Netflix and whatever, and I go. She goes, "Oh, what about that?" And I go, "I don't know if you like that." And she goes, "This is Bond. Look, it's Bond." I was like, "Yeah, it's Daniel Craig, but it's called The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, Mum. I've never seen it, but and I don't think that's the original. Maybe we should try and find the original." "No, I like him. I like Bond." All right. All right, let's watch The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. Have you seen the film, Will?
I can't remember it.
Right. Well, it's a very, very dark... The original film, I believe, is Swedish, but it's a Scandi film, and the remake, it's a very dark, psychological, really twisted through it, and there's some very, very nasty people in it. And she, the girl with the dragon tattoo, the eponymous character, teams up with Daniel Craig and essentially finds a killer.
Right.
In the process of this, it's really dark, and it shows about how men can be really abusive to women, and how she's been a person who's, she's covered in tattoos, and how she's been, which is why she's got a dragon tattoo, but how she's been treated really terribly by life and by men and abused and whatever. Anyway, there's this guy, and he's awful, and he's in I can't remember exactly what it is, but he's in a position of power. I think he's a professor or he's a boss or something, and she's trying to find a better life. And so he basically coerces her by his use of power into sexual activity with him. Anyway, there's this one point where, and it's really horrible and it's really dark, and me and my mum are watching, and I'm going, "Oh, this is awful," but not because I felt embarrassed, but just like I'm just sort of going, "God," I'm saying, "Mum, isn't this? Gosh, this is awful. This is so powerful and dark and horrible." And then just as she's like powerless, and he just goes, "I hope you like anal sex." And I just went, that is not a sentence I ever want to witness ever while my mother is in the room.
Is that the point where you don't look at your mum?
Mate, my eyes were like... Do you remember Linford Christie before you used to start running? It was the most tunnel vision you've ever seen. I didn't look at my mum for another 3 days after that. I was just like, don't. And then I became really aware of my breathing, and I didn't because I was like, I don't want to make too much noise to show how uncomfortable I am that my mum's watched this with me. And so I was sort of going, and then I was like, don't swallow too hard because I don't want it to hear me go, oh God. So it was that was awful. But obviously, like, the subject matter was supposed to be awful, and it's supposed to be really dark and whatever, but I was just like, I could have coped with it all had that not come up, because suddenly I was like,
nobody ever
and my mum's like, she was like 77 at the time, and she's not a naive woman, but it's not a conversation I want to be present for.
No, you don't want to go, "What do you think about anal, Mum?" That's you just spit beer all over yourself, Ralf.
All over me.
That's just never a point where you're going to ask that question. There's no conversation that comes off the back of that scene, is there?
Oh.
What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, Mum.
Lube or not lube?
But
It's just not a conversation you have.
Mum, I know that what this film's about is the objectification and horrifying misogyny and abuse. But I think we should really hone in on this particular discussion.
Let's talk about this bit. We'll wait after the film and we'll discuss this, shall we, Mum?
Yeah. Oh, mate, I didn't speak to her for the rest of the evening. I couldn't. In fact, I think when I finished, and I said in such a brittle voice, I went, "Would you like a cup of tea?" Everything's fine. Everything's so fine.
What's talking about? What is your go-to films? If you're going to watch a film, right? I mean, I'm not a rom-com person. I like things that are quite... things that stay with me. Right. I'm into, like, powerful... My wife likes lighter stuff, so she likes stuff that's lighter. I'm more into...
You're a very deep individual.
No, I just like things that where it's like escapism. Like, if I'm going to watch something, I don't want to... I'd rather be, like, pure getting out of my comfort zone and watching something that's going to move me.
Give me an example. Something you watched recently that you liked.
You probably won't like it. The Colour Purple musical film movie. Cried.
Why would I not like The Colour Purple?
Because you don't like musicals. and it's the original film.
Oprah Winfrey.
Oprah Winfrey, yes, was and Whoopi Goldberg was powerful and dark. It's obviously about racism and stuff like that, and this I found because music moves me. I love music. I watch that, and I do embarrass my kids because I get emotionally involved, and then I'm sat there crying.
You love a cry.
I can't help it.
You love a cry.
But there's the music and the way she sings it and the meaning she's singing it for, and
okay.
And it's Fantasia Barrino who plays the lead, and she is unbelievable. I mean, you just believe it.
Give me another example of a film that you've watched recently that you love. Not a musical.
Not a musical.
I was going to say what's your favourite film, but I can't go talking about Rocky again. So
do you know what? I cry at a lot of films. I've realised because I tell you another film, but I watched, which was the Green Mile.
Yeah.
Now love that film, but I can't watch it because it makes me cry too much. I end up with a big lump in my throat.
Mr. Jingle.
No. Am I afraid of the dark, sir? And he won't put the hood on him, and he's going to basically go to his death. Oh, that and the film. My favourite film as a kid, which I can't watch now, was The Champ.
The Champ.
It's about a boxer, John Voight, and a kid.
Of course, it's about a boxer. You love a boxing film.
Well, because it related me to my dad and me, and I used to look up to my dad and all that sort of stuff. And it's about him and his kid. And his kid, I can't remember the kid's name. Isn't it amazing how there's a lot of child actors who are unbelievable and then they just sort of disappear? It's probably the best performance of a kid I've ever seen in a film.
I'll tell you who's a fabulous child actor that you're talking about. I can't remember his second name, but Henry, he played Elliot in E.T. One of the most beautiful performances you've ever seen.
Have you seen his audition?
Yes.
How good is his audition with Steven Spielberg?
Do you know what Spielberg says at the end?
Unbelievable.
Do you remember?
Yeah, he said you got the parts on, does it?
Yeah, because he came in and he was so good, and I think he was partly improvising. He was like, he was just saying, your alien friend's going to be taken away from you.
He's going to take him away.
And he just be these big fat tears, kind of goes, please don't take him away from me. And Spielberg just goes, it's okay, kid, you had the job.
Yeah.
Like there and then in the room.
You got the
because
job,
he was that good.
And you see him come out of it, he just smiles at the kid.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Incredible.
Well, this kid that was in The Champ was called Ricky Schroeder. There he is.
Oh, yeah.
And him in The Champ, if anyone hasn't seen The Champ, unbelievable. That kid is the best performance I've seen from a child. And what I'm trying to say is, I can't watch anything that's got bad acting in it because I can't embrace it. I can't. If I don't believe it.
Is that why you don't watch anything you're in?
Funny enough, I've got me on repeat. No, it's more about. Do you know if you're watching? I don't like watching acting. Like some people like watching acting. Like they say, Laurence Olivier and all these actors. They had a style back then.
You really are a dear little thing, aren't you?
Don't ever look at me and say that again. It's awful.
Why, thank you for coming back to me. The Strangers on a Train. You've been a long way. Thank you for coming back to me.
Well, that's quite good, actually. Ralf.
Thank you very much.
But do you know, there's stylized acting. Some people like that. I like to be believed. Listen, someone like Stephen Graham, right? There's people who I think are quite underrated for how good they are. Here's another one. I think now we're on to actors. Have you seen Colin Farrell in Penguin?
I've seen him as Penguin in the Batman film, and I haven't seen Penguin yet. The
Penguin's unbelievable.
I think Colin Farrell's just sensational. Always has been sensational. I'll tell you what's a Colin Farrell film that you might not have seen.
Phone Booth.
No. So Colin Farrell sort of really came to prominence in Minority Report as the sort of antagonist. But that wasn't his first break. And then he started doing Phone Booth and he's had this massive career. But the film that, as my understanding is, that really sort of put him on the map and then got him into sort of Minority Report is a film called Tigerland.
Oh.
And it's a relatively low budget film, quite an art house film about soldiers in Vietnam.
Good.
What a film, what a performance.
Really?
Oh, he's unbelievable.
Really?
You're literally watching it going, there's a star. What an actor.
And do you know what? He suffered as well. He had problems, didn't he? And I think elsewhere, do you know what he suffered from? Being good looking. There's a lot of actors.
Yeah,
I think Brad Pitt had the problem with that as well.
I've suffered the same.
Yeah, you've struggled with that, Ralf, a lot. Yeah, I've noticed that.
Look, you deal with it as best you can.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's hard.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, and I'm Jumbo.
And I'm Jumbo.
But I think there's if you're good looking, Leonardo DiCaprio, you know what you're going to get from him. I think, I'm not saying he's an amazing actor. I think he was great in like What's Eating Gilbert Grape, a great young actor.
Basketball Diaries, he was good.
Yeah, Basketball Diaries. I think sometimes though, the further you go down your career, you've got to be careful that you don't get typecast to do the same roles. I mean, Tom Cruise, he's a good actor, but you might as well phone it in. You know exactly what you're going to get.
I'd still watch
every
him,
film. Yeah, because you know what you're going to get.
Apart from, but this is what I mean. When he turns up in Tropic Thunder, you're like, how is this the same guy?
Yes. But I think.
But he must have been having fun.
There's a lot of actors though that can't do comedy. Brad Pitt did Friends. He was fucking shit. It was awful, in my opinion. In my professional opinion, it was awful. I just thought he couldn't do comedy. He looked like he was fighting it. You know what I mean? Rather than when you see him get into everything else. And why are you biting your thumb? What, in case you work with Brad Pitt one day?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the phone's not going to ring. I'm pretty sure.
Well, I don't know. I probably will be busy, but hopefully his phone will ring.
Oh, right. Well, you know what I'm saying? People think comedy's easy.
Hold on. Why might the phone not ring?
What? I'm talking about me.
You cheeky.
I'm talking about me.
It takes one phone call.
It does. All I'm saying is my opinion, and you know what? He could watch me on Hollyoaks and go, he was crap. But, I doubt it.
Listen, if the Sultan of Brunei's son can watch you on Hollyoaks and go, get him over here with Michael Carey and Janet Jackson.
Michael Carey? Did you say Michael Carey?
Did I say Michael? I'm sure I said Mariah Carey.
You did say Michael Carey. Mariah's
Michael
brother.
Carey.
He wasn't there. Wasn't invited.
We can't get Mariah. Get Michael. Pay him £100.
But it was a question for you actually. What
greatest living actor?
Who's your go-to if you've got to watch a film and you go, he's in it, it'll be great.
Ooh. Colin Farrell's one of them.
Yeah.
I think Gary Oldman's the greatest living actor. I think he's utterly unbelievable.
Favourite role Gary Oldman's been in? I bet it's the same.
True Romance.
Drexel.
Yeah.
Did I say Drexler?
Yeah.
Drexel. Yeah, True Romance. What a film.
It's
Tarantino's one of Tarantino's earliest films.
But not directed by him.
No.
Here's the thing about acting, right?
Jesus Christ. Strap yourself in.
For anyone out there, right? Me personally, I'm not speaking for anyone else, but me personally, I'm a half good mimic, and actually so is Will as well. If you sit like you watch Will do the Grinch, all right, bear with me.
I'm not doing the
bear
Grinch.
with me, right? What I'm about to say, perfect example for you is the Grinch.
Mm-hmm.
So Will loves the Grinch, and every time it's Christmas, you can't stop him doing it, and he does like his little Grinch.
I did it this Christmas.
Come on, show me, give me a little
Brilliant!
bit. Right. Oh, do you little...
Blind me with pepper spray.
Right. Now,
Oh, Max!
so there you go, right? Will can do that. I can. There's very few things, I don't know about, but there's very few things I'll watch where I think, where I don't think, yeah, this is great, but I could have done that. If I'd have had the chance, I could have done that. But every now and again, you see somebody, you see a performance, you see an actor do something, and you go, I couldn't do that. I couldn't.
That's the penguin for me.
And not only could I not do it, but I might be able to copy it now. But the fact that they thought of it, the fact that they originated this in the first place, that's what's so amazing. And weirdly, the Grinch, as funny as that, Will can do the Grinch, and you can sort of
an impersonation of Jim Carrey doing the Grinch.
But would you have ever, when somebody's gone, we're going to cast you as the Grinch, would you ever have gone, oh, Max? It would never have occurred to you. And I think that, like Gary Oldman doing Drexel in True Romance, for example, I'm looking at it going, how did this come to you?
Genius.
And then you executed it so perfectly, and you're just a bloke from... Where's he from? Enfield?
And Leon, when he plays that guy, the detective who's taking... Oh, it's just
extraordinary.
incredible.
I don't have the imagination. I can copy it. I could take it off for sure, but I don't have the creative imagination.
Well, here's one. Gene Wilder, right? Now, Gene Wilder, for anybody who's of a young age, you won't know who they are. See No Evil, Hear No Evil, all that. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, original. He was...
The original and best.
Yeah, and the best. Well, do you know he got offered Willy Wonka, right? The Charlie Chocolate Factory, Willy Wonka. And... he wanted to change. He wanted to. The first time you see Willy Wonka, he walks down this carpet. They're all waiting at the gates. Yeah, they've all got the tickets. They're all waiting. All the crowd, and you see Willy Wonka He comes out and he's got a walking stick, and he's walking, and he's in his top hat and his tails, and he's walking his purple suit, and he's hobbling down, and everyone's going, "Oh no, he's old," right? And his cane gets stuck in the ground, and then he starts to fall forward, and he falls into a roll and goes, "Ta-da!" And he stands up, and they all go, "Hey!" and cheer. That came from Gene Wilder. Wasn't in the script.
Oh, that was his idea, was it?
He said, "I want to do this," and they said, "Well, we don't really want you to do that." So he said, "Well, I'm not doing it." He said, "So you're saying you're going to turn down the film unless you let us do that?" And he said, "Yeah, this is what I want to do." And he said, the director, because I've just watched his documentary, the director said, "Gene, why is this so important to you?" And he said, "From that moment on, you will never know whether I'm joking, telling the truth, or I'm lying. It will leave you in that uncomfortable space where I want you to be with Willy Wonka." When he says these things about these machines do that, is that the truth or is that a lie? He said, the first time you see him is so important. So is everything a truth or is everything a lie? You don't know. And he said, and I want to put the audience on the back foot. I would never have thought of that shit.
No.
I would never have read the script and gone, I need to put something in at the beginning there.
No. Do you know what you'd have done?
I've been counting how many scenes I was in, see how many days off I had.
That's exactly what I was about to say. Instead of going, you wouldn't have come in going, I was going to say exactly, you wouldn't have come in going, so I'm really thinking I should have a cane. And I should go, what you'd be doing is you'd be going, right, what? I've looked at the schedule. You're not going to need me till 11. Why have you called me at 8? Why have you called me at 8? Look, we can do this in one wide shot. Just do one shot. I'll come in. I'll walk in.
Do I need to be in the back of shot here?
I'm only saying hello. And then you can turn the camera on. I can go home. That's what you'd be saying.
But it's the true story. And I found it fascinating that, you know, I mean, it's a movie, but the fact that when he offered it, he didn't just go, yeah.
Yeah, and I've got some ideas. He said, I've got to do this idea.
I have to do that,
or
or I'm not interested.
Yeah, fascinating.
I think I love that sort of stuff.
So, yeah.
Here's another one, and I did just while we're on this subject, before we move on. A different kind of style of acting is people who immerse themselves in it. What's it called? There's a word for it. When you just be the person while you're doing it. What's it called, that word?
For some inexplicable reason, it's gone right. Method.
Method.
Acting.
Daniel Day-Lewis. Now, where do you see him in your acting calendar of great actors? Be honest. Why are you looking at this?
I think he's great.
Right. Why do I not believe you? Is it the style of acting? Do you not understand this?
I personally don't find myself a fan of the method acting thing.
Okay. Shia LaBeouf does that as well. He's method.
I think that. All right, there's a genuinely serious conversation. It's a very niche conversation for actors, but
yes,
all right.
But I'm saying for people out there who don't understand the difference.
Since you asked,
in
I
acting
have some quite strong opinions about it.
All right.
Well, I have strong opinions of this.
Make it quick.
My strong opinion is this: like, I respect anybody's process. If your process is to come in and have, you know, if your character's supposed to be cold and tired, so you made sure you didn't get a lot of sleep last night, and you left a window open, you come in, you're feeling terrible, and whatever. If it's important to you know what your character had for breakfast and did this, I respect your process 100%. Good for you, and if it helps you do the job and be the best actor you can be, I totally respect it. But don't make it my problem, or don't make it anybody else.
Being on set.
Yeah, don't make it anybody else's problem.
Have you worked with people that have done that?
Not really. I mean, there's extremes of it or whatever, and I've never worked with anyone that's made it my problem. So I don't have a problem. But like, you hear stories about. I'm not going to name names.
We can't name names.
No,
right.
but I've
worked with some dickheads.
I've heard stories about somebody who was playing a famous, horrible, unhinged villain character. Mm-hmm. Who was sending their co-stars roadkill because they were being in character, and it's like, this is what this character would do, and he'd send them roadkill, and they'd open a box and they'd be like, oh great, well, morning, I've got to come to work. And I just don't. That is not for me, I totally respect it. And also, my process, such as it is, and this is where I have a really firm opinion. My process is, I once heard about, who was talking about it? It was somebody was talking about how Anthony Hopkins famously is like, when they're lining up the scene, he's chatting away and he's having a laugh and he's doing impressions, and then they go, action, and he goes, bang, Hannibal Lecter. Wow. And then they go, cut, and he's like, anyway, so as I was telling you...
Oh, really? That'd bother me slightly. I'd prefer it the other way.
What, he was like Hannibal Lecter and then he started doing impressions when they said
No,
action?
I just didn't see him other than Hannibal Lecter. Cause
that's interesting.
It'd be my response would be more easier for me then.
That's interesting, but I'm more in that mode. Like I'm doing what I'm doing what I'm doing. Unless it's a really intense scene and
intense. It's Hannibal fucking Lecter.
Not all of them are. Not all of them are when he's going, hello, Clarice. Right? So my point is that Anthony Hopkins doing all that.
Yeah.
I think there's a misconception amongst the industry, actually, and I feel quite strongly about this. This is quite a personal thing for me. That whilst people who are doing the real method stuff, that's their process and it's to be respected. I think that the thing I just described about Anthony Hopkins is, he doesn't have a process. But I think the opposite. I think that is his process.
Yeah.
I think for him, it's just as important for him to be able to break out of character and do the thing and not think too much. And he's got a plan of what he's going to do. And just even me and you, when we were about to go on stage doing our tour, which is our silly little tour, right? You tend to pace around the back of the...
my energy,
to get your energy and you're thinking about stuff and talking to yourself, and I'll just sit down and chill. But do you know what? That's not you have a process and I don't. Those are our processes.
Yeah.
And I think that this thing about going, look how method they are and look how serious they are or whatever. I don't think...
There's no right or wrong.
But I think there's a perception that one is more serious than the other.
Right, yeah.
And my process is to not be too... intense on set and actually just to kind of just chill and have a bit of a laugh and then switch into stuff, which I mostly can. Obviously,
I'm exactly the same.
Right, but it is weird. I think there's a subconscious concept amongst people that's like, well, they're not as serious. Whereas if you're walking around going, this is really heavy duty, people almost take you more seriously.
I agree.
And
I've had issues with people on set.
I just feel like my process, such as it is, just because it's not obvious, is as much of a valid process as it is to be like sending roadkill to my co-stars.
Yeah, and that's far too far.
Of course, yeah.
I've worked with people, and I've worked with directors who've worked with people who like to be the squeaky wheel.
Yeah.
Who like to get the attention of the director, the producers, and the floor by making something big out of something very small. Like there's a scene and there's a word in the scene that they'll say, but why am I saying and there? Why is and coming out of my mouth at that point? Shouldn't I just be looking at them there? The and there weakens my character there. That conversation can go on for an hour. I've been tucked to people's dressing rooms going, we have a little problem with this word here. And so go to get me out of my dressing room to go to this other actor's room who's got all the producers and the director over one word, and once he's got everyone in the room, he goes, sorry, I'll just say it. So he got the power, all he wanted was the power. And I left that room going, dickhead. I don't want to work with this dick ever again.
Name names.
I'm not allowed to.
Name names.
He's a dick. And I've worked with him a couple of times. He's a dick. And you know what?
Wait, it's not me, is it? I remember doing that.
It's not you. But no, I don't understand people who want to make other people's working process harder.
Also, let's be fair.
I don't understand.
Let's be fair. There are some things. So when you're playing Lee Castleton in a post office, you've got some quite emotional scenes.
Yeah.
And I think that if you'd have gone, listen, do you know what? Just give me a couple of minutes. I just want to really
take yourself away.
Yeah, exactly. You might take yourself away or whatever. And to be honest, as much as I go, my process is just to switch into it. Like, if it's something that's really heavy and meaningful like that, then I would take myself away because you get in the mindset and whatever. But if we're really honest, and we've done this a long time, 99% of the scenes you're ever going to do in your career aren't that. Most of them will be like, all right, love, yeah, no, don't worry, I'll pick them up.
It's the hardest bit of acting is the conversation.
Yeah,
the emotion is the easy bit. High emotion is easy.
And I'm sorry, I once had to spend. We were on a one of the jobs that I've done that's a very famous job. I won't go into it. But we once had to wait half an hour
on the beach.
We once had to wait half an hour.
We're not going to mention what job it was, but it was fucking hot, and he was on a beach somewhere, and he was in a suit.
It wasn't one of the.
We're not going to mention it.
It wasn't one of the regular actors in this show, but somebody genuinely said. They said, I'm just, can I just talk to the director about this line? I said, yeah, sure, I'll step back. And the director and I had a conversation, and do you know what the line was?
What?
Morning.
You're joking. Oh, see, that's the problem.
And I'm thinking, the only reason to have that conversation is if there's a mistake in the script and you're shooting it at night. And if you're not shooting it in the fucking dark,
Exactly.
then just say. And honestly, it was like, I just don't know. I mean, what sort of mood are they in? Because would they say something just as sort of chirpy as morning, or would they say good morning, everyone?
Oh my
and it's like,
God, get off! We've got a long day ahead.
And also, it's like it doesn't matter. I'll tell you what were some of the best things. I wrote a show a fucking long time ago now, and was lucky enough to have it made, and it meant that I got to be in the edit process and be in the edit. I honestly think every actor should spend at least one day in an edit suite to get over their own ego and realize that a lot of the shit that you think matters does not matter. It doesn't matter. People sort of going, I tell you what would be really useful is if in this conversation between the two of us, maybe if I'm doing this interesting thing with my finger and I'm just gently rubbing the table like this, maybe that would really help. And directors are often saying things like, yeah, that's a really good idea. And what they're thinking is, you ain't going to see it. Do what you fucking want. It doesn't matter. But if it helps you and it's your process and you don't make it anyone else's problem, crack on.
Well, the whole point is you've got to be aware of other people's process. And also, the floor is so important when you're working on the floor. I know this is quite sort of specific about
our industry. We're getting quite actory now, but they give you an insight.
Apologies, but it's an insight. The working space of when you're on the floor, you've got a whole team of lighting, cameramen. You've got a sound person. You've got your makeup, your wardrobe. You've got your floor managers. You've got the cast. You've got supporting artists. One thing you want that to be is a nice environment to be in, and it only takes one arsehole to ruin it. And I'm
particularly in the cast, like if you,
it's usually somebody who's high up on the list.
Because actors have like actors of both genders, like but actors or actresses, like they have. There's a weird. People won't realize this listening. There's a very clear hierarchy of a film set. Yeah. You know, you've got your exec producer, your producers, your directors, and there's a very clear hierarchy. And some of it's like a little bit, well, this person answers to this person, but it's very, very clear. Yeah. But what's weird is actors are sort of have a much more blurry hierarchy. They have a hierarchy within the cast because you've got a certain number on the call sheet.
Yeah, but still, it doesn't mean you're better or
but some people take that and there's a like, because if
number 2, number 3,
but also you as an actor might have more power than the director, which you shouldn't really have. You might even have more power than the producer, which you shouldn't really have. And I think that you can be given all of this power and responsibility, but if you're not answerable to somebody higher because you know that you can throw your toys out the pram, it can throw people. It can throw you for a loop. Like honestly, when I did Death in Paradise, it was the first time I'd ever legit been the number one on a call sheet. And I'd never even given a shit. But everything I've ever done has always been an ensemble thing. 2 Pints, Royal Family, whatever. And I couldn't believe how much was made by other people about going, but you're number one now. And I was like,
exactly.
I couldn't give a shit.
The process is the same.
I never even really heard the phrase number one referred to until I was it and people started talking about it. And it kind of made me a bit uncomfortable. It's weird.
There's one story I want to say before we wrap up. This is a bit of fun, and I hope it's true about Daniel Day-Lewis, and I'm going to tell it because I heard it. It was when he was doing My Left Foot. So if I've said it before and you know it, My Left Foot was a true story. I used to do an impersonation.
Yeah, don't do it.
Okay. But it was...
it was a different time. It was back in the 2 Pints days.
Well, I'm doing an impersonation of him doing the person.
Don't do it.
Right.
Back in the 2 Pints days when you used to... Don't do it! When you used to do an impersonation of Daniel Day-Lewis doing Christy Brown, it was funny. It was the early 2000s. It's not something we do anymore.
Okay.
All right.
But... Okay, so I can't do an impersonation of someone else doing an impersonation of them. Okay, I realise that's the rules now, apparently. So, Daniel Day-Lewis was playing this guy. It's a true story about a guy, Christy Brown, who could only use his left foot and became an amazing artist. And, his dad thought he'd be nothing and he thought he was stupid because he couldn't really speak properly. And he could only use his left foot. It's an amazing film, amazing story.
Won an Oscar.
Daniel Day-Lewis was method. So he was carried to set every day. And fed every day at lunchtime with a spoon.
Because he was severely disabled.
So, and apparently the story goes that somebody, his feeder, whoever, has to carry him to the place where he has his food, and he was in full character, fully disabled, and he was feeding him from a spoon or a straw, however he could eat, and he was doing that every day for weeks and weeks. And this one day, he carried him off set and into the area where he was eating his food. And as he's feeding him, Daniel Day-Lewis sees someone he's not seen for a long time, walk into the room, and he goes, "John!" and jumps up and runs over.
Or the guys with his spoon going.
And the bloke goes, "Feed your fucking self," and throws a spoon.
Oh.
Now, it might not be a true story, but I hope it is.
I do.
It lives in the magical world of myth.
I don't, and I'm happy to admit this. I don't have the imagination to fully
draining
to fully pretend I'm someone else like that. I don't have it. No. I've got too much like cynicism almost. Because
I do. My imagination is so vivid that if I wanted to, I could, but it would do. I'd do my own. I'd come out mentally ill. Or like, what do you mean? Like I'm not already? Is that what you're going to say? Well, you've got to be a bit broken to be an actor. You've got to believe you're somebody else.
I'm just a bit like. Okay, so from the moment I get my costume on,
I wouldn't do it.
From the moment I get my costume on, and I'm suddenly in like Victorian period.
It's amazing how the costume changed everything, by the way. Sorry to interrupt, but when you put your clothes on, you walk differently.
Makes you walk different. Yeah, totally.
In Merlin, I played a knight, and I put the gear on, and I walk a bit bent up. And my back's all bent. And I've not got a great posture. As soon as you put it on, your posture changes.
I saw you actually in Merlin as that night, and like it was like transfer. It was like you were a completely different character. What accent were you talking in?
Northern.
Right.
I was from the northern. I was from the Northern Isles.
Yeah, it was
RP Northern.
Honestly, no one could ever have understood it was you. You were unrecognisable. You were like Gary Oldman. You were like Colin Farrell as Penguin.
I was close to the Oscar.
Yeah.
And also, I stabbed someone when I was the knight and in sword training, which wasn't the best.
That's great. Well done.
Yeah, well, I just thought, they said, go for him. So I did, and I stabbed him. I said, you didn't get out of the way. They went, cut. He's on the floor.
You didn't, did you?
I stabbed someone, yeah. Yeah, in the leg, yeah. I think it was Arthur, one of the leads. He was supposed to kill me, but I got him first.
Yeah, well, you're like, hey, you were method. You were method.
I'd win this fight. I've got snakes on my shield. They had to cut for lunch while he recovered. I hurt all his leg. It was an accident. You know, accidents happen.
I also think this thing about, getting the costume on, and I've heard this about people who are really method, and it's like, I've heard stories, and maybe they're bullshit stories, but you hear stories about somebody who wants to be blindfolded, once they get the costume on, blindfolded, led up onto the set where everyone's ready to do the scene, and have the blindfold taken off, so that the moment the blindfold's taken off, they are in the world, right? And I think that's all well and good. But if you're in the world and it's a period of everyone's in Victorian dress, and you're in the world and you take the blindfold off, and suddenly it's like, wow, look at all these people in period Victorian dress, maybe I'm here. What happens if you look over there and there's a big fucking camera and a giant microphone boom thing? What about those lights?
Exactly.
They didn't exist.
Exactly.
So,
and also, you've only got two walls that are actual working walls. The others, you got no ceiling if you're on a set, no roof. Yeah. You got people all sat around you. You know, it's a world of make-believe. You've got to make it up in your head.
But I used to. Do you know what? A few years ago, I would have sat here and I would have said to you, I think it's all bollocks. And I think it's all...
No.
I've softened a little bit, and I don't think that it's all bollocks. It's, as I said before, I just think whatever works for you. If that's what you need and that's what helps you get into the best place to deliver the best performance, then I'm all for it. But... don't, one, make it somebody else's problem. Two, definitely don't make it my problem. And also, don't think that just because my process is the exact opposite, which is just to be like, okay, I know my lines, I know what I'm doing, I know where I need to be, let's get it done. That is no less of a process than your process. Yeah, that is just as important.
And also, it doesn't mean you're less talented if you don't do them things.
Yeah.
It actually means you've got more imagination. And there's one more thing I want to say before we wrap this up. A lot of these films now... they're not even talking to anybody. They're talking to a ball on the end of a stick. You know, if you're working with aliens and monsters and stuff, you know, with all these films now with the action hero films and Marvel films, they're not even in the room. They're in a room full of green screen. There's no set, so you've got to rely on your imagination.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's all about what comes out of your own head and what you can believe.
I mean,
I think it'd be an interesting
I was about to say, would it be fun or would it be boring? I don't know. I feel like I'd want to see like some of the storyboards and like concept art to at least go, this is what it's going to look like. Okay, at least I can project that in my head because this is just a green screen.
I told you once, to wrap up, if anyone didn't hear the story, the one of the worst notes I ever got from a director was when I was playing my first gay role on the street, and I had to go up to kiss this man in bed, and we were both sharing a room, me and Vincent Regan, and the director said action. I was completely naked, and I went to approach him, and he went, cut! I went, what? And what it was is I had to step in front of the camera so you saw my bare arse. And as I stepped forward to walk towards him, he said, "Cut!" I went, "What's wrong?" He went, "Your arse looks nervous." I went, "What?" He said, "You're gay. Your arse wouldn't be nervous." I said, "How can my arse look nervous?" He said, "Just as you set off went to kiss him, your arse went..."
Yeah,
and squeaked in.
Oh well. And just before we say action, have a sniff of them poppers.
Remember, relax your ass and action.
You know.
It's true. It's amazing what you get. Anyway, now I know how to have a relaxed ass on camera.
Did you think that he was right in hindsight? Like, did you
No,
then relax your ass?
Because I was nervous, and he could see it in my ass. It's amazing. My ass is a very talented thing.
Look into my ass. you will see
what you mean to.
Wow. Yeah.
Right.
They do say that the arse is the window to the soul.
Yeah. Is it? No, it's the eyes.
Sorry, I
Sorry.
keep getting confused.
Yeah.
Right.
Thanks for listening. That was a bit on the actor.
Sorry, it was a little bit actory, but we got there. As usual, so our pods are Mondays. What is it?
Mondays, Wednesdays, What Will William Tell? Fridays, Swift Half, and Saturdays from 6 o'clock.
The full pod
on YouTube on the full pod. Go and like, subscribe, do what all the kids do.
And subscribe. Thank you very
and
much.
buy some tickets for our tour. They're selling out fast, so please come. Especially Dominion. It's a big thing.
They actually are.
I know, I can't believe it.
I know, I can't believe it. But please
We
come
better
to the
start writing the
Dominion.
show.
Please come to the Dominion. Right, thank you everyone. See you for the next one.
Enjoy your week.